Hey everyone, and thank you for joining us for the third annual Drauger OS State of the Project Address. My name's Thomas, and I'm the lead developer and founder of Drauger OS. So before we get into the meat of this, I'm going to quickly go over what the State of the Project Address is for anyone who's never seen one before, and so that those who have seen one before but don't really remember what it is get a quick refresher. So the Drauger OS State of the Project Address is a video where everyone gets super bored and falls asleep. Is there not some sort of video they can go watch about this or something like that? That way we can just skip over this and not bore everyone out of their minds?
No.
Okay. Can we just skip it and then make a video about that later?
No.
Well, you know what? I'm the founder, so we're going to do that anyway. So screw tradition, and yeah. Hope you guys like the intro.
Or will you fucking fight back? Or will you fucking fight back?
Hope you guys like that intro, and we put a lot of work into it, and I'm sure most of you remember seeing it from the trailer, so let's get into the meat of this now. So we're going to quickly go over Drauger OS 7.4.1, the last version of Drauger OS. So ever since our last State of the Project Address, we've had 4,147 downloads of Drauger OS 7.4.1. That's a lot of downloads, guys. Now, ever since it lost support on September 5th, 2020, it's had 2,197 downloads. That's a lot of downloads, guys. And that version of Drauger OS is no longer supported. So unless you have some sort of software that can only run on that version of Drauger OS, or you're just checking it out to compare it against Drauger OS 7.5.1, stop downloading it. It's only there because the community requested it. It is no longer being supported. But if you want help switching to Drauger OS 7.5.1, we'll be more than happy to help you out. So on to Drauger OS 7.5.1. Download stats, we can't really go into specifics about those because we don't have specifics. Our new download server doesn't have any tracking on it. So that's great for you guys and your user privacy. But it's not as great for us because we don't know how many downloads we're getting. But we can make some general assumptions based off of the installation reports we've received. Now these are all opt-in, so there are probably a lot that didn't send installation reports. But we can still make some general assumptions. So we have about 142 minimum installations. This is based on the number of reports we've received thus far. And what have they told us? Well, they tell us that most people have done these installations in a virtual machine. Outside of those virtual machines, though, most people have done these installations on an Intel CPU. But AMD isn't uncommon. Actually, we see a lot of 2nd and 3rd gen Ryzen chips out there, which is great, guys. 2nd and 3rd gen Ryzen are amazing chips. We also know that the vast majority of users are using UEFI, which is great because it gives them more configurability and faster boot times. What's really confusing is that there are some people, not a majority, and actually it's a minority, but there are some people that are trying to use Drauger OS on Intel graphics. And I'm not talking like the upcoming Intel dedicated graphics. No, they're not testing on us. No, we're talking about like the integrated graphics in Intel CPUs. We figure most people are doing this because they want a minimalist, lightweight distribution. And we don't come with a lot pre-installed, so that makes a lot of sense. What else have these installation reports told us? Well, most people who are installing Drauger OS have 16 gigabytes of RAM or more, which is fantastic. Also, we see that Nvidia graphics cards are the most popular GPUs. And within those, Nvidia 10 series cards are extremely popular, as are Nvidia 20 series. But Nvidia 30 series and AMD RX 6000 series are nowhere to be found. Big surprise to no one. So, what does this tell us? Well, in the development circles around Drauger OS, we know Drauger OS loves CPU cores. It eats them for breakfast. In fact, you can get Drauger OS to run on one CPU core. One. However, it is not a good experience. At all. So, most people who run Drauger OS need at least 2 cores. But with most CPUs out there having about 4 cores, we should be fine, but we want to keep it under control because most of the CPUs that this is being installed on only have 4 cores. We also have room to use a little bit more RAM if we need to, but we shouldn't get crazy with that because I know a lot of our users out there love the fact that we only use a little bit of RAM. And while we can't deprecate BIOS support just yet because there are some people who either want that or can only use that, we can already see this happening in a future release of Drauger OS. Now, if you don't want us to get rid of BIOS support, leave us a comment down below explaining why. UEFI is going to be the future, guys. It's already on all new systems that you buy. So, at this point, unless you have a really old computer, probably should be using UEFI anyway.
Hey guys, Thomas from the future here. So it's at this point that I realized that I forgot to mention some very important information about the next version of Drauger OS. First up, I wanted to mention that we are already working towards an alpha version. Now, we don't release these alpha versions, they're just meant for internal development purposes, but we are working towards them early this time around. That way, by the time we have a beta release, that will be fairly well polished for a beta. I also want to mention the version number. So the current version of Drauger OS is version 7.5.1. The version number for the next version of Drauger OS is version 7.6. And the reason I mention this is because some of you may notice that ending 0.1 is gone. Now that 0.1 at the end was used historically to indicate how many attempts it took to generate a working ISO image. Nowadays, we are typically getting a working ISO image on our first attempt. So that extra .1 is essentially pointless, so we're just dropping it in order to make things easier for everyone. Other than that, the final thing I want to mention is the code name. Now, before I reveal what the code name will be for the next version of Drauger OS, I want to talk about what the code names have been so far. So the first ever version of Drauger OS that was publicly released, which was version 7.2.7, did not have a code name. Drauger OS 7.3.6 and 7.3.7 used the same code name, and that was codename Revenant, which is typically someone who has come back, usually from the dead. They may have actually been dead, but that's the general idea. Any sort of undead creature or someone who has been revived from the dead would be considered a revenant. So ghosts, zombies, vampires, that sort of thing would be considered a revenant. Drauger OS 7.4.1 was codenamed Jiangxi. Now, a Jiangxi is essentially a vampire from China. And the major notable feature about a Jiangxi is that it hops around. So, sounds kind of ridiculous, but that was the code name. The current code name is Zombi, with the E left off, and the reason for that is in Haiti, where zombies actually come from in Voodoo. That's how it's spelled. It's just Zombi. So the next version of Drauger OS is going to be called Strigoi. Now, a Strigoi, if you look it up, is, according to Wikipedia, in Romanian mythology, and they're troubled spirits and are said to have risen from the grave. They're attributed to the abilities to transform into an animal of some sort, to become invisible, and to get stronger from the blood of their victims. So, very, very similar to Western vampires. So, hope you guys like that little bit of trivia, and the next version of Drauger OS will be Drauger OS 7.6, codename Strigoi. Take it away, Past Thomas.
So, let's talk about our community real quick. If our community exploded last year, what did it do this year? Because this time, it grew way more. Now, we're nearing nearly 800 Twitter followers. It's a lot. And we have over 100 YouTube followers. Now, I know, in comparison, 800 Twitter followers to 100 YouTube followers, the YouTube doesn't really sound that good. But, in comparison to last year, that's roughly an order of magnitude in growth. So that's really, really, really good. Also, we have 173 Discord users, which is up from less than 40 last year, and 97 Telegram group users, which is pretty good. I think a large part of this growth is due in part to my interview with Jason Evangelo on Linux for Everyone. By the way, guys, that was a super fun interview. Go check it out on the Linux for Everyone YouTube channel or on Spotify or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. Jason's a really cool guy, and we had a lot of fun. In other news with our community, we also have a forum for our users to use if you don't like Discord or Telegram. Other than that, we're looking at making a social media team. If you are interested in helping out with this, send us a message on Telegram, Discord, or on our forums, and we'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. So, to wrap up community, let's talk about some upcoming community things. So, on May 22nd, we're going to have a Drauger OS game night, probably going to play some Mind Test and a few other things. And we're also looking at making a mailing list for media outlets. That way, you guys can get a notification whenever a new version of Drauger OS is coming out or really major software updates coming out, and keeps you in the loop. Website time for our web developer friends in the audience. We are now self-hosting the website, and that gives us physical access to those servers in the event of a massive system failure or in the need to upgrade hardware. We actually upgraded our website server earlier this year with an SSD, and the download server is being upgraded with an SSD later next year. We also 100% own the servers that the website and downloads repository are on, so that's great. And development time for our development friends. We now have 29 repositories on our GitHub, 9 of which were created in the last year. We made 626 commits to those 29 repositories. That's 200 more than last year, so that's a lot of work, guys. And we had 33 pull requests that we accepted, 1 more than last year. And we have 17 issues. 7 of those were closed already and taken care of. 2 of them are being worked on, and that leaves us with 8 that aren't being worked on quite yet. All in all, that means about 300 hours of development were done, bare minimum. Bare minimum. Now, the reason I say that's a bare minimum is because we have a lot of great contributors. We had a lot more contributors this year than last year. And that means that they put in a lot of work that I didn't even see, other than a pull request or an issue or something like that. And because of them, we need to take their time into account. And not to mention, that 300 hours I gave you guys is kind of lowballing it even for me. So I would say it's probably closer to 600. But Besides that, I want to thank everyone who's helped out with Drauger OS in the past year. This includes Logan L. Johnson, our web developer. He's been a huge help in setting up the forum and a bunch of other stuff. I want to thank Jason Evangelo for the awesome interview. I had a lot of fun, as I've already said. And I want to thank Sinless for all the help he's been doing lately. He's just gotten his security certification, so we'll be doing a lot more security-oriented stuff because gamers deserve to be secure on their computers as well. It's a huge thing we need to keep in mind, not just performance. And I want to also thank my best friend Kendall, who's holding the camera, because without him, this would be a terrible video. And with that, thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys next year. Have a good one.